Audio sync in 3, 2, 1,
Sync.
All right, everybody get it?
Yep.
Yep.
We're so good at this by now.
Welcome to Visual... Wait.
The title of the series is Visual Novel Book Club.
Thank you. I love to right after D-Max, like, we gotten good at this. But... All right. Welcome to Visual Novel Book Club, episode 10. I'm your pal Slovey. With me is my friend Jim.
Hey there.
And Paul Hoko.
Hello.
And Ty Tuesday. And DV's Vacuum.
It's me.
It's her. Now listen, we are now on the final route. We're gonna be wrapping up our first season in a couple of episodes, but I believe this time around we've unlocked all 4 good endings, and the way to unlock the final route, you start the game over. You can be Takeshi or Kid. Did anyone else do Takeshi besides me? Good, then none of you had the buyer's remorse that I do, because I've read the other path, and Kids is so much goddamn better.
Oh no, I would have guessed the Kids was worse. Because Kids
No,
so
not
insufferable.
Not even a little. Takeshi's is a junk. Takeshi's is so bad that I'm like, they really should have just had Kid be the only way to get to the final, like, the true ending.
Yike.
Yeah, it's just
That bad, huh?
but it's just useless, and I'll tell you why in a minute. But like I said, so I've read Kid's Path, so I'm not going to be left in the dark here totally. But would anybody want to start us off with how you get there, what you have to do as Kid, and what's different, and all that fun stuff?
Well, in both of them, you basically, there's times in the previous runs where something strange happened, and now you're in those same moments and you have extra dialogue options.
That's right.
Because there's a lot, I think, that we can talk about going through each individual choice. There's a lot in Kids as well. But basically, yeah, you make the choice to basically pay attention or doubt what's going on in a choice you didn't have before. Yeah,
so what happens on the back end is if you get all 4 of good endings with all the characters, it sets a variable, and once you play it, yeah, like you say, you get these scenes. So I think the first scene with Kid, for example, is... Initially when you do it, you're with you wake up in the infirmary, you're walking around, and you hear banging from the elevator, and it turns out to be Mayo. But Kid thinks he hears his 2 voices. And I don't even remember if he mentions it or not in
he does.
the normal
He
playthrough.
does. He was like, weren't there 2 girls in there? No, it was just me.
Right, and then this time, though, you can further question Mayo and be like, really? Or is that right? And if you say really, you get all new dialogue. Where I thought this was really cool, basically, where Kid's like, no, I could swear there's like 2 voices. And then he kind of slips and says, like, Sarah. Like, he says her name, and she's like, wait, how do you know my name? And he's like, what, Sarah Matsugane, that's your name. And she's like, we've never met. You should, like, how do you know my name? And he doesn't know, because he has amnesia. And she's not as put off by this as maybe I would be. Like, she's just, oh, this random dude knows my name, whatever.
Well, she's looking for her brother, and that probably tips her off for the identity of her brother, I would think.
Oh.
Because she had to, take a second look at him at that moment and be like, doesn't he look like an older version of my brother that I've been looking for this whole time?
You're right, actually.
Although we get into that later, I'm not sure if he does look like the older version of her brother.
We'll see. And then Kid tries to remember, and he gets a headache trying to remember, and so Yu has this dialogue where she, forces him to smile so he'll feel better. And it's really weird, and Yu continues to have problems with boundaries, and then the game actually asks you, do you feel better now? Yes or no? And I said no, because fuck you. And then Yu is like, okay, I'll cheer you up a different way, and she picks Sarah's nose. And she doesn't pretend, she actually does it, which is really weird. Again, boundaries.
Yep.
So you actually can pick your friend's nose.
God. It was so gross. It was weird.
Really weird.
It was so weird. And I'm like, look, I know you guys just found out you're trapped in an underwater amusement park, but, calm down. And then as you keep going before the next Coco choice, you keeps pointing out how strange it is that the kid knew Sarah's name. So there's more incidental dialogue where like they're walking along and Yu's like, that's so weird, and Sarah denies knowing who he is, so she doesn't immediately go like, oh, maybe I know him, and she is like, no, I don't know who this is. And Yu is like, are you a stalker or something like that? But so maybe she's still figuring it out. Maybe she doesn't want you to know. It's not clear.
Right. Now so things again proceed as we know them to, which is Lemieux starts flooding. They run into Sora, Takeshi, and Tsugumi. There's presumably 6 of them. They're in the control room, and of course they look at the life readings, which are fluctuating between 7, 6, and 5. And I think someone comes to the conclusion, well, there's 6 of us, but now you have the option to interject with just the numbers 5 or 6, which basically is like, yeah, there's 6 of us, or no, there's only 5 of us. So yeah, you can either say, there's 6 of us, or just sort of interject like, no, there's only 5. And if you say there's 5, they're like, what are you talking about, Amnesia Boy? And you're like, I'm afraid Sora here is actually an RSD. So
finally, asking the questions.
Right, he's kind of awesome in this route, I think. Because he's just like, he doesn't know how he knows this stuff, but he's sort of like, I'm going to tell you all what's really going on here.
And he asks, like, reasonable questions for once, because we were so frustrated in all the routes, but especially Kids' route, where we were like, why does no one bring this up again? Like, what's going on?
Totally. So he just mentions the bioscanner and all that stuff. And then,
And Yu is like, no, it could still be a sensor malfunction. Like, she's very like, no, there must be a logical explanation. But
right.
Kid convinces everyone to agree, to look for this 6th person. And
right.
Kid finally asks the question, why didn't you say that she knew that Sora was an RSD, because she already knew? And Yu says, well, I thought that's just what Sora wanted.
Right.
Which is not good enough.
No. It's a weird response, but also, like, it's way more satisfying to hear him ask these questions, mainly because we, as the player, have gone through this 4 different times, and you could see the logical inconsistencies really easy at this point, and you're just like, thank you, the last 4 times this came up, you didn't ask the damn question, thanks for asking it now.
We've just had to play the dummy the whole time and just pretend that things made sense.
Yeah.
Right.
And then immediately, like, after, so then Kid asks this question of Yu while they're, like, walking in a hallway, and as he asks that question, like, Sora pops in to tell him not to feel bad. So then Sora just immediately goes full RSD and is, like, popping around and stuff. So that's fine.
Yeah.
And they have a scene in the, they have a scene in the control room with Tsugumi, and Tsugumi's like, I'm suspicious of all of you, but not Sarah. Sarah, you're fine. You've never done anything wrong, and I love you. You're fine, Sarah. You're fine, Sarah. And Tsugumi still thinks that everything, that they've been set up. She accuses Sora of orchestrating everything. And Sarah and Tsugumi kind of have this moment, like, she's like, don't say that, or like, let's talk later privately, or something like that, where it's like, okay, we're Mayo and Tsugumi talking more in the background in at least in this timeline, because they actually had a lot in common and a lot of reasons to be suspicious. So that's really, and then how did that end up with the whole pendant argument between the two of them? And I don't know if we'll ever see that conversation or how their relationship evolved, but you can see it's starting here, which was interesting.
Mm-hmm. Now, trying to see what else happens here. So, what happens next? The
next Coco moment that you have, where you, I think that's it. They like search for Coco, but they don't find anything. And then the next opportunity you have is when Sora explains to Kid that there are thermal vents at the bottom of the ocean that Lemieux draws its power from, and you can, and if you say like, oh, thermal vents, and you can link them to microorganisms, like I did the very first time, and I'm so mad. This is how long I had to wait to ask this question to this video game. And when you do that, then he's like, oh, they were doing like research and microorganisms and vaccines and all this stuff, and he like straight up asks Sora about IBF.
Yeah, I mean, even before that, too, he's like, Sora, it's weird, like, can you tell me who runs this? And he talks about Lemmy, or Lieblich, and he's like, it's weird that a pharmacy would run an amusement park, which kind of leads into, yeah, well, there's thermal vents here, and he's like, well, isn't the real reason microorganisms? And then, yeah, he's straight up, exactly, like, so I know you have IVF down here, and I know you can't tell me about it. And she's even like, how do you know that, or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but she says, how do you know that? She doesn't deny it like she does when Sugumi says it.
Right, yeah.
Which is interesting.
Well, it could be too, because like when Sugumi says it, it's not with a ton of confidence. It's kind of like I know there's something under it. He's like, whereas Kid just kind of like dumps it on the table. He's like, oh yeah, microorganism research because the IBF's down below this. And she's like, I'm sorry, what? I was like, yeah, no, I know about that. Like, it was just very confident instead of like accusatory. It's just like, oh yeah, no, I know what that is. And she's like, what? Yeah.
Yeah,
it's like there's
almost
also
like accusing her in public, and Sora doesn't want everybody else to know. She emphasizes that to him, that he's not supposed to tell anybody else.
Yeah, and she says, forget about this. Keep it a secret.
Well, keep in mind too, though, Sugumi does pull Sora into the control room, which I never really understood. Like, she does the accusation, but I feel like maybe with Kid, there's no point in denying it, because he like knows, he seems like he might know everything. He doesn't, but, to her anyway.
Yeah.
Take that.
And that's that little bit, and it proceeds as normal until the scene where Kid sees Coco in the decompression chamber. Mm-hmm. And then he says, "Let's get out of here. Let's leave and bring you back to the others." And it seems like if he realized that if he looked away from her, then she would disappear. And she also realized that, so they were sitting there like trying to have more of a conversation, but Takeshi still comes in the room and breaks the connection between them. And then Kid says, I was talking to Coco, and Takeshi recognizes the name Coco.
Right.
Or like has this reaction to the name Coco.
Also, Kid is kind of like doesn't know how he knows that that's Coco. Like, he's like, I know that name, but I don't know how, or you know what I mean, like. So it's another, like, thing that's happening where he knows about, stuff that he shouldn't, or the other timeline, or whatever you call it.
Yeah.
And then, thankfully, for the rest of the route, whenever anything happens that they should know how it affects Sora as an RSD, they actually talk about it. And so when the blackout happens, when they have to go repair the generator, Yu says, oh, no, we don't need to go look for Sora. Sora's not here because she's an RSD and she's turned off by the power. Mm-hmm. And that was also really nice. Finally.
Let's see here. Of course, while the generator's off, we get the best picture ever, which I know, Ty, you were happy to see again.
Yeah, I was really glad to see the them carrying the giant fish, the giant frozen fish.
The elevator fish.
Yeah, and I didn't really realize how particularly absurd the face that one of the characters, it's Mayo, has just the most intense, determined look. Like a murderous 1,000-yard stare drawn on, and it's really good. And everyone else is like goofy or whatever, but and you just see just the edge of her face too. Like, she's almost all hidden except for just a bit of her face, and it just looks really out of place. Like, it almost looks like she's like sneaking up behind this fish. Like, she doesn't want someone to see her. Like, hey guys, carry this fish. I'm gonna walk behind it. Don't let them see me.
She looks like she's about to fuck someone up with that fish. Like, she's just gonna just slam it into somebody with a whole frozen tuna.
She looks like she was the one responsible for the fish dying, and she's got this look like, okay, we can't talk about this.
I just killed someone.
Can't ever bring this up again.
She looks like she was brainwashed into killing someone with the fish.
Or like the fish is controlling her.
Like somebody said go-kart, and now she has to kill the president.
Oh my god.
So that scene is playing out where the four of them are gonna go to fix the generator, and looks like before, the whole thing happens with Kid's premonition about the door being hot, and Yu is like, well, I'm gonna go, but Takeshi's kind of creeping me out. Kid, will you come with me? This time, however, you can of course go with Yu. You can say, nope, not gonna do it. Or now they give you a third option, which is, why don't all four of us go?
Which is a reasonable thing to say. Oh my god.
Weird. I didn't even really pick up on that when that happens, that I'm like, yeah, why are they splitting up?
Just because you wanted to go talk to Kid privately because she had a crush on him.
I guess so, but yeah, he's like, why don't all of us go? Which is, again, the correct choice. And it's funny because, like, all four characters are kind of flabbergasted by this. There's all just ellipses all around the room until it goes back to you, and she's like, I guess that's an option, and yep. So, they all kind of, like, work on it together, I guess. And then, I think at one point, what happens? Like,
Takeshi forgets the toolbox, because he's Takeshi.
Oh, right.
So Kid runs back and gets it, and then he sees the apparition of Coco, and Coco appears and sings that same lullaby that Sarah sang about the moon sprites that at this point we've heard 10,000 times.
That's right. And by the way, I don't think you can really skip past at all, like, even if you hammer on the enter button. Because
no, you can't skip the singing.
Skip this concert.
You
have to hear the whole thing.
The only good thing is when it's running, you can do something else, and it'll keep going.
It's true. It's true. When in Mayo's route, I took that as an opportunity to go to the bathroom in the middle of it. So Coco is saying things to Kid now, and she says that Kid wouldn't take her with him, and then disappears into a spray of water. And what is that about? Is she a ghost? Why does she need a spray of water to disappear? Was she using those later on? She's throwing things into the water. I don't know. It's very spooky.
It's weird too, because in the Kid Mayo route, he didn't take his sister with him, right? When he escaped from wherever.
Right.
And then now Coco said that, and it's funny because when I read that, I took it to mean the scene we just saw where he finds her and he's saying, I'll take you where everybody is, but Takeshi interrupts and she's just gone. But now that I'm thinking about it, it's a weird parallel there.
Yeah. ...
It
also makes me think, like, in the other timelines, when it was time to escape the facility, like, did they leave Coco in the pod? I don't know. There's still a lot of could Coco still be in the pod hints here.
So
then you have a choice as to whether you tell the others about what just happened. It doesn't seem to mean anything, but I told them, and everybody freaked out. They were like, oh my god, he's crazy, let's just agree with him so that he will stop freaking out at us, and maybe he should go to the infirmary.
Friggin' sorry, I'm thinking about the Takeshi route and how mad I was that it just reminded me of something. I'll get into it later, but
alright. And then through that route, because we already know that Sora's an RSD, the RSD explanation happens at a different time. It happens during dinner that day. And then later, Kid is walking down the hallway with Sora, and you have another Coco-related choice. And after she explains what an RSD is, which is all repeating dialogue, I didn't even read it, and then I'm suddenly at this choice. And she's like, the whole, like, oh, I don't exist when you don't look at me, which is not true.
Right.
Literally true. It's a metaphor, I guess.
Yeah. Right.
And if you choose to, like, obscure your eyes with your hand, it doesn't matter, it's stupid. But basically, he blocks the camera with his eyes still open, and Sora disappears.
Right.
Yeah, this is the choice that can actually bump you off the Coco route if you choose the wrong thing. If you get the choice between try it Yeah, you can try it or don't do anything. And if you don't do anything, you just get bumped off the Coco route for no reason.
Yeah, and it makes no sense. Like, there's no rhyme or reason to why that would bump you off the route. Like, it doesn't, at this point at least, influence any. Like, it's completely nonsense.
Yeah, because you already know that Sora's an RSD. So what does that have to do with, like, why insult her by doing that?
There's a stupid reason. It doesn't make, like, you're absolutely right that it doesn't make sense, like, in terms of the story, like the plot. It's, you know, there's like, that conversation comes up again later, I think, about closing, about if everybody close their eyes and don't see me, I don't exist kind of deal. Mm-hmm. So I guess, actually no, because you're still having that conversation now that I think about it. So
yeah,
it doesn't really
yeah,
matter.
the metaphor is just as true.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, okay.
So then
yeah,
Sora,
no, I got nothing.
I forgot about this until I read it just now again. Sora is like, what if I told you that all of Lemieux was an RSD illusion, huh? Wouldn't that be deep, man? You know? But of course it's not.
Brains in jars, man.
Because you can touch things. But that's, you know, it's fine. What if it was an illusion? But then Sora then goes on this, another one of the Ever 17 patented, long, unnecessary metaphor conversations where she says that she's like the moon, which is this sort of untouchable image that you can't really prove if it's there or not. And, you know, Sora, I don't know what your dictionary definition of a moon is. But it's really stupid. It's a stupid conversation. Kid even is like, but what about the tides? But he kind of ignores that in favor of, like, this is what Sora meant to say.
Yeah. It also, maybe I'm just getting it from it, but it felt kind of flirty between the two.
God,
Kid
who even
Sora?
knows at this point?
Yeah. Yeah, between Sora and Kid. It's just,
right.
But
Because
I have no idea.
technically we've romanced everyone at this point. So
Right.
they're, you know, we don't know who we're really playing as.
Well,
Time for Kick the Can.
Yep, kick the can.
Kick the
marks-
can. Kick the can.
Kick the can is the final time we're playing Kick the Can, and it pretty much at the end of Kick the Can you're on Coco's route or you're not. Well, I mean, I'm sorry, with that last choice you're on her route or you're not. But Kick the Can is where all the similarities like end, and now we're real. This is like real game has, like, real ending has started after Kick the Can, I'd say. Like, that's where things start diverging now and getting really different.
Uh-oh, DC.
Because, I mean, Kick the Can, I don't even remember if there was anything different about it. You know?
Kick the Can, who kicked the can? I don't know.
Were we able to skip Kick the Can? I feel like something stopped in the middle of it, but, like, it was something minor.
I was able to skip the second half. After the first three choices, then it seemed like the whole second half was skippable.
Okay, yeah, then Kick the Can is fucking nothing.
So it's after that, I guess, and they sleep where they're in the infirmary, and we finally hear about, like, a little bit more about how that works. Like, they all sleep in the infirmary, the kid's sleeping on the examination table, Takeshi sleeps in the decompression chamber, he can't sleep, so he gets up to bother Kid.
Wait, can I stop you there?
Yeah.
The reason I want to stop you there is because I want to tell you all about Takeshi's route.
Oh boy.
Because this is where it dovetails, is in the infirmary at night.
Oh boy.
Okay. Get ready for this, motherfuckers.
Oh god.
Yes.
Kid goes in kind of like prognosticating things and just being like, no, there's 5 life forms, no, whatever. Takeshi, on the other hand, now in his route, if I remember, Coco is found by someone else. He hears a weird sound from the elevator, and now he gets a choice. Should he check it out? And he does, and what do you know? Coco's in there. So they find Coco. And there's like one extra scene of him finding Coco. You may ask, does someone say, hey, Takeshi, how'd you know she'd be there? Nope. Takeshi does absolutely nothing like what Kid does. He just kind of like hears weird shit, or like, I think there was a voice there, you want to investigate it? Sure. And then they'll have some scene like, oh, it was you over in Dolphin Carousel. Let's talk a little, you. And it'll end up being a scene we'll actually see later. I don't even want to talk about it. But the point is, there is fucking nothing that happens.
So he doesn't see any Mayo ghosts?
Nope. And what insult to injury, all of us before the infirmary scene, all of a sudden, Takeshi has a dream, and in his dream, he sees shit from Kid's route. He's like, I dreamed that I'm serious about this, like, I dreamed Kid was in Lemieux, and he thought he heard two voices from an elevator, and then they show you the fucking scene with Kid and Sarah, where he guesses her name. They do, like, little summaries of all fucking parts of Kid's route to get to the final route.
You can't escape it.
No, it's like that's what I'm saying. Like, it's like they knew Kids was way more interesting, so they're like, oh, you went to Takeshi? Yeah, shit, we better bring you up to speed. You know what I mean? It's like really awful. And then
it's like if they told a story about some other character through just some guy that doesn't even have anything to do with the story.
It was stupid.
Remember the end of last episode, we talked about unanswered questions. Still, big unanswered question, what is Takeshi's deal? He's just a normal guy.
Yeah, he's just a guy. He's just there.
And does that maybe make him the most special of all?
Well, I mean, he's good at kicking.
He's the only one
He's really
who
good
is.
at chick.
We'll get to chick.
Sorry.
We'll get to chick.
Yeah. So basically, I mean, I'm sure there's an Ever 17 fan out there who's like, actually, you missed this, but I don't know. Reading through it, I'm like,
has that been happening
so
to you?
Stupid. What do you mean?
Have Ever 17 fans been like, excuse me,
the
so
rabid
beef?
Ever 17 fan base just descends on him saying, no.
All I've had is
no.
people spoiling things from games that we haven't even played yet by the same guy. That's all I've had.
Let me
I
tell
don't know
you
what
something.
kind of jerk would do that to you. Jeez.
No, I'm lucky so far. I've gone through, like, I've skimmed through the ending just for, like, points where we should read, so I kind of have ideas of what's going on now, but I obviously won't be contributing, so it's a little harder to spoil me, at least. But at any rate, I'm sorry. That takes us to the infirmary, where both stories meet for the final route, more or less.
Dang.
So anyway, we're in the infirmary, as you were saying. And
Takeshi
then
asks Kid to get a beer with him.
Yeah, he's like, are you awake? And like kind of shakes him awake, and he's like, I want to talk. And then Yu is like, shut the fuck up and go to sleep, Takeshi. And
he does
then
this whole like Bert and Ernie thing. He's like, hey, kid, are you asleep? I'm bored, kid. Come on, kid, let's go out and get a beer, kid.
And then it's like an after school special where Takeshi's like a pusher, and he's like, let's grab a beer. And Kid's like, no, I'm too young to drink. He's like, well, you weren't too young to steal food. I mean, he's like, well, I needed to. He goes, well, why don't you drink? Hey, how do you know you're only like 16 anyway?
That was
There's
my
no
best.
law.
That was my favorite line, and I just don't know why he didn't just say something like, just go on and be like, there's no laws on the ocean. There's no drinking age here.
There's no law underwater, kid. Come on, take a drink.
You might have 4 days to live.
Yeah.
So now might be, there's not going to be a 21st birthday for you.
Hey man, for all you know, this time here is gonna end up being, you know, like for all you know where we are, it is legal to drink at 16. Like, who knows, man?
Who knows if this is even beer? This might be underwater beer. There's no laws against underwater beer.
There's thinking. There are no laws against underwater beer. Everyone knows that.
That's what you do when the cops try to bust you, just hop under some water.
Yeah, if you shotgun a whole beer in a swimming pool, you can't get arrested for that. You heard that
too
here
dangerous.
first, folks.
Go to
Tried
your
and
local
true.
public pool, just go underneath.
Drink the beer underwater.
Drinking at the pool.
So a very important kid thing happens then. So he and Takeshi are talking, and they end up in the the locker room area.
Yeah, the locker room, which we saw maybe only 2 or 3 times in the entire game.
Yeah, but there's a mirror there.
Uh-huh.
And Kid's like, oh, that's right. Like, with my amnesia situation, like, I should look in the mirror and see, like, if I remember my own face. And he looks in the mirror, and it's, get ready, everyone, somebody else! Some other generic anime boy who's much better dressed.
He's blonde. He is well dressed than Kid, and he looks older.
Well, he's sick, yeah, because he's Sarah's twin brother would be 16.
The bigger question, though, is have they been going to the bathroom this entire time? 'Cause
We
you gotta
still don't
think
know.
There would have been a mirror at
Oh,
some point.
yeah.
Oh yeah, here's another question. So there was a reason before this started. I may or may not have angrily posted a graph of reflectance versus angle of incidence of seawater. So, yeah, you see where I'm going now. Yeah, so they're always like in their ankles with seawater, right?
Yep.
With
Motherfucker
fluorescent
never had
lights
to
above.
Yeah, has this motherfucker never had to like tie his damn shoes or just like look at the ground? He's awkward as hell. You're telling me he doesn't like shoegaze once in a while, being an awkward wiener boy. Like, oh my god. How many times in a land of water and glass, how dumb do you have to be to never see your own reflection? In a land of water and glass, which is all this place is. And
It's
like
pretty
reflective metals.
contrived.
That actively made me like, oh, fuck off. Like, fuck off with that. Like, oh my god, a mirror. Like, you're in a land of mirrors and cameras and fucking technology and everything. And you just, and you have amnesia and you never thought to just be to someone like, hey, what color's my hair? Oh, blonde, cool. These aren't my hands. I don't know. These aren't my clothes. Like, it's not like a mirror. Like, you don't need a mirror to see your clothes. Like, I'm wearing my I will never reveal the Wu-Tang secret hoodie right now. Like, I can tell you that. Fun fact, I know
Now-
what I'm wearing. I'm also wearing jeans. It's me.
I just want to interject the good side of this, okay? Is because earlier we were getting an awesome new kid who wasn't getting owned by anything and just saw the fucking Matrix. And now we're back to kid being a fucking idiot and just being like, I own myself with my own reflection.
Also, this raises the question: is this kid, is this kid in this one the kid that's Sarah's brother is a totally different person? Like, they were never the same person. That they, it's not like in this route suddenly it's a different guy. Like all the kids route paths, all two of them have been with this different guy.
I think that's and I'm not sure about this. I think that's what the reveal is kind of supposed to be. Like, when you're on Takeshi's route, you see the kid and he looks like young, and you see him. And in all the kids' routes there, it's all first person. You never see a reflection, which is, very realistic, as we discussed. But like, I think that's the thing. It's like, yeah, wait, you've been dealing with a different kid this whole time, and we used like quote unquote camera trickery to hide that. So, yeah. Anyway,
That would
At
kind
that
of explain
moment-
why the kids are pretty different between the playthroughs.
Yeah, they're different people. Maybe being controlled by the same thing, but different people. And then there's a very dramatic perspective shift.
Yep, we're back to those. So this is, if you remember from the very beginning of the game, the line that goes left and right across the screen. Mm-hmm. And we're back to Takeshi again.
I didn't think the game would ever do that again.
It's really good. It was a neat thing.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
they pulled it out at a really good time. Like, just right then you realize, oh shit, it totally is two different timelines. Like, absolutely 100%. Okay, we're absolutely positive now.
Has to be, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Now, did you see a scene? Now, what happens is, if I remember, when we get into Takeshi's timeline, they're like, they're just eating. They like they have hot dogs, and Takeshi makes hot dogs, right?
Yep.
And then he has like some kind of like flashback-ish thing. Like, he says it's May 3rd, it's the third day, but he remembers when they're first trapped. And you know how he sees Coco in an elevator looking up at him, which never happened before? Did that happen for you guys, or is that just my route?
I think it's just your route.
Oh, here, I'll post the picture.
Oh no,
but it's like,
I have it here in my notes. Takeshi remembers finding Coco after the collapse. She was in the elevator. I just didn't
that's
put that much
the new,
emphasis on
Okay,
it.
yeah.
right. That's the new scene from Takeshi's route to the ending, basically. Like I was saying, like how he finds Coco a little earlier, but it makes no difference really. You also get to see that scene here, like just a brief snippet of it. So kind of like Takeshi has these stupid little summaries of kids route. On this timeline, you're gonna see little like spots that you missed with Takeshi anyway, which kind of makes going to
Oh,
the
so
final
that's why
route with
he
Takeshi.
remembers like 4 things in a row. He remembers finding
Exactly.
Coco after the collapse. He remembers talking to Sora. He remembers
Yep.
talking to Sugumi, and he remembers talking to you, who had an album of baby pictures of herself from her parents.
I'm just checking out. Like when he's talking to Sora, I'm sorry, and I'm going back to Takeshi on the final route. She does a thing like, close your eyes and see if I exist, and you can try it or ... which I think is then when we're on this route and he thinks back to talking to Sora is the same thing.
The moon,
I'm kind of
the whole
blanking
moon
right
thing.
now though on the thing you mentioned before that with you and the baby pictures, which is totally
Yeah,
weird.
it flashes to Takeshi remembers talking to
Yes.
you, who has
It is,
a
yep.
really tiny album or something like
Yeah,
that. She was showing it to
that's right.
Coco, and then we hear Coco say, "Well, my dad isn't around because he's on a business trip." And Yu says that her mom is really distant and lets her do whatever she wants. And that the Yu in Takeshi's flashback would be the spring one, the first one. So even, if the second Yu is a clone of the first Yu, she still had a bad mom. And
I'm
then,
trying to wrap
and
my head
we should-
around that. Would she be the first one, or would she be the second one?
If Takeshi is talking, if we're playing as Takeshi, then, and we assume that Takeshi's timeline happened before Kid's timeline, then that would be, that you would be the first one.
Okay.
So I feel like we're gonna have to like pay attention to which you we're talking to as we switch around. And when another thing to note is like what's going on, because I think what's going on in the different timelines when the switch happens is always like relevant and important. And when we switch to Takeshi, it's at that moment when Coco he's waking up Coco, and she's like, "Oh brother, it's time to go to school." And so is she speaking as Coco? Is she speaking as Sarah? It's that kind of ambiguity, and all the shifts have some ambiguous statement associated with them.
Yeah. It's almost starting to seem like Coco is like weirdly in both timelines at once somehow.
Yeah, like maybe she's controlling Sarah, just like Kid is being controlled. The Kid is controlling this brother.
I'm just gonna say it. Coco just throws a wrench into this entire thing because you can't tell what's being kind of like an allusion to something and what's her just acting stupid.
Oh yeah, we don't know anything. Yeah. And Coco's just random. So yeah, Takeshi, I guess we flash back to all the things that Takeshi did so that we know. And then it is the warehouse pipe repair scene, and we're still Takeshi. And so Sugumi gets injured. The whole thing happens again. The main thing is that Takeshi this time turns the valves in the correct way with no choice. We just remember. And the whole scene plays out again. Sugumi gets impaled. She has to go to the infirmary. She has to get stitches. That whole thing happens again. And then it goes to when, Takeshi and Coco are waiting outside of the infirmary, and Coco's crying, and Takeshi's like, "Oh no, it's okay," and he starts comforting her. And then in that moment we perspective switch back to Kid in Kid's timeline, and now Kid is also crying because he keeps getting owned.
Because someone's picking on him.
And he remembers being Takeshi and hearing Sora talk about Sugumi's compound fracture. So the memories are crossing over, and let's see, I don't have this in my notes. Does he try to tell Sarah about it?
He actually does.
Well, he's hearing the voices, and then he says he wants to. So he goes back in the infirmary, and he tells her he wanted to see if it was real or a dream, and then he does. So he just basically tell her.
Oh right, so she's like, the warehouse just flooded. Like you were sleeping, and the warehouse just flooded while you were sleeping. Like the thing that you said is weirdly similar to the thing that just happened, but nobody got hurt over here with us. And she says, "Did you have an out-of-body experience?" And Kid says something like if he did, he would look at girls' underwear, which is something that Takeshi would say.
Yeah, and he says it weird too. He's like, I would look down girls' underwear, and I think her response is just like,
not how that works.
Yeah, like she very angrily too. Like her response, she's like, "Well, you'd be looking up at you stupid idiot. You can't look down a girl. What the fuck is wrong with you?" And he's just like, "I realized I'm bad at making jokes." It's just like, "Yup,
That's the kid I know."
Oh shucks, guys, I'm garbage. That's me.
Could I look down your underwear, please?
So Kid goes back. Kid's hanging out with Sarah then, and he goes back to the mirror and is looking at it, and Sarah's there, and she's dropping hints like, well, don't you think we kind of look the same? So she's, trying to get him to admit or say that he's her brother. And so they hang out for a while. I don't know if anything else really interesting happens in that other than, she's like, well, don't you kind of look like me? Which is a compliment because I'm great. And Kid goes to eat lunch and makes a double down. I just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah,
Kid has a double down for lunch. And Mayo has an entire head of lettuce with ketchup on it.
It tastes like the sun.
That sounds made up, audience, but that's what she actually says.
Yeah.
No, yeah. It's now you notice the family resemblance to Kid, because that is something stupid that he would say or do. I think he even is this where he takes the leaf of lettuce and that's
Wipes
right.
his face
He
off,
ripped- Yeah, and he wipes some excess ketchup smeared around Sarah's mouth, dabbed it on my lettuce, and ate it.
Gross.
Yeah, he's just creepy boy in this timeline.
Gross.
Yes.
He does act kind of creepy.
Is that weird? Just having a little bit of, having a little bit of fraternal ketchup. Don't make it weird. Just a little.
Why don't you lick it off my finger?
Ain't nothing wrong with a little fraternal ketchup.
That's the episode title.
It's a brother-sister thing. You just wouldn't understand.
Oh my god.
A little fraternal ketchup wins it, yeah.
Gross.
That's gonna be tough to
Hey, just be thankful it wasn't actual mayo.
No mayo in this game, other than the person. So we have a
It'd only be
choice at
worse if
that
it was
point,
pee-pee.
a meaningless choice, where you can either you can stay with Sarah and go to the warehouse, or you can go see you in the security room.
I went to Sarah.
Yeah, I went to both to see what was going on.
Oh, okay.
Sarah's more interesting, so I'll say what happens if you go talk to you. If you go see you in the security room, Kid. Well, one interesting thing happens, which is that as he's going up the stairs, he reflects on how he didn't recognize himself in the mirror, and he sees like a hologram Kid right in front of him. He sees like a half transparency image of the Kid that we know in the bad hoodie. And he hears that Kid and himself also saying like, "Who are you? Who am I?" But then the image disappears and that's it. So that's cool. He then goes and talks to you, who and he basically just tells her the password. He's like, he just says the haiku out loud. And then he's like, see, you just have to tilt it, and that's how you tilt this paper, and you can see the password. And she's like, oh my god! But she still gets locked out of the system, so that doesn't matter. And that's it. And then you leave. He points out that a haiku has 17 syllables, just like we did back when that happened.
That.
Yeah, I feel like the reasonable thing is to stay with Sarah because we know that we're Sarah's brother, and that seems like, there should be more interesting stuff happening there.
I mean, there is, but it's disgusting lettuce eating. But besides that, they go to the warehouse, and
I can't get over that fucking scene. It was so bad.
It really was awful. And what happens then is like, all right, they're in the warehouse, and then I'm trying to remember exactly how they get there, but there's like how they get to this next part, but there's the door in the back that leads to that other room. And when Kid opens it, he sees like the room with like the cot and the light coming through the barred window and all that, I think, right?
Well, Kid hears someone banging against the door of the small room.
That's right. Yeah. That's right.
Which would be his own self. He hears the banging, and that would be himself in the other timeline banging against the wall, which is real weird.
Pitching a fit.
Then him and Sarah go in there, and they're like, oh yeah, we can see infrared light. And Sarah is still not totally on board with Kid being her brother, which is interesting. Mm-hmm. And she shows him the pendant again, but this time she says that but she still says that the person on the pendant is from the sun. And I think she says that in the other one too, but I don't remember. She says the person from the pendant is from the sun, and that's why natural light is what makes it viewable, and why it's an infrared. From the sun. People from the sun. That sounds real. It's been a really long time since we've talked about Lemurians. I'm just like throwing that out there. So, I think that's it for that part. And then, then they go to Kid goes to the conference room, and Tsugumi signals to Kid that she wants to speak privately to him. And they have the same kind of conversation, like "What's your deal?" conversation. And Tsugumi asks about Jewel chocolate.
Yeah. And she's like, yeah, and you get a stupid arbitrary choice of, do you know about Jewel chocolate? If you say you know it, she kind of explains it anyway. So,
because nobody knows what this is. This isn't a real thing.
No, it's not. And I don't really even understand how it works. But apparently, Jewel chocolate is chocolate that comes with a little plastic ring and there's 32 different colors you can get. People try to collect them, and it's like some people just want to collect all the rings, and it's almost like the chocolate's like a secondary thing to the ring, actually.
It's a Wonder Ball.
Yeah, what? Kinder Egg.
It's like a Kinder Egg Wonder Ball, yeah.
I don't know.
Also,
I've never
apparently
heard of
there are
those.
34 types. 34 types, which is a multiple 17.
Oh, 34. Yeah.
But yeah, no, what it is that it's like a chocolate orb filled with goods.
It's got actually physical toys inside. It's illegal in the States, but you get them in Canada.
Yeah, in the US, the Wonder Ball has candy inside it instead, so that you could just put the whole thing in your mouth.
Yeah, so you can still choke on it, but at least you choke in style,
differently.
I guess. Yeah.
I thought Wonder Balls were gone, and I saw one in the grocery store the other day. What the fuck? Anyway, Wonder Balls, still a thing.
God, that obnoxious commercial.
It's playing in my head, but I don't want to sing it. You can sing it at home to yourself, everyone. It's to the tune of Who Wrote the Book of Love?
Oh, I was thinking Wonderwall, but...
Oh, God!
Oh, so it's like I wonder... Oh, no, really.
Don't do it!
Don't.
You can... It'll be stuck in your head forever.
Anyway, so, like, Tsugumi's like, I'm just collecting rings. The chocolate's an added benefit, meaning, like, talking to people, right? It's like...
What does that mean? Does that mean that she knows that she's going through all the timelines on purpose?
And then Kid doesn't remember...
She touches his ear, and, like, time is displaced.
Yeah, and, like...
in that moment, my body burst into fragments.
Yeah, she touches his ear, and his body bursts into fragments, apparently.
And just imagine it in, like, a really bad...
that hasn't happened to you. Like, that hasn't happened to you, Mr. High and Mighty never exploded when his ear got touched.
Just imagine it in, like, really bad... like early 90s CG where everyone just explodes into triangles.
Yeah. He gets de-rezzed. Yeah.
Does he have like a memory of Takeshi or something like that and like being attracted to her? Or does she have time powers? What's going on? Memories of Takeshi.
It's like he got a little bit of Takeshi mixed into him because he acts like kind of a pervert in this run.
Yeah.
Like in the next scene, they've got like you and Mayo.
you and
They're
Sarah
like sleeping
cuddling?
with each
Yeah,
other. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's this
That
line, it's like
happens
they
in-
were lying on the
yeah.
table and breathing as if they were in sleep. Their legs were facing me. I could almost see their underwear, but I was not interested in it.
Oh
And
god, that was
We'll
my favorite
get to
line.
that.
That was my
Parentheses.
favorite line. That was my favorite
Not
line.
We'll get to
interested?
it.
Question marks?
I thought that was like commentary from somebody else. I was like, how'd that get in the game? Was that like
No,
a translator
that's just coming. Just
commentary?
top 3 horniest things to say online. I've never been horny. I'm not horny. No, not horny. I'm not horny. God.
I could almost see their underwear, but I was not interested.
No thanks, I'll
And it's like-
pass, says the horniest man alive.
It's even like narratively suspicious. Like it's 2 separate sentences. There's no joining clause. It's like I could almost see their underwear. Period. But I was not interested in it. You know what I mean? Like it's like I don't know.
Calm down, ever.
It's like some guy that's not even part of the story just shouted from off screen. He's like,
the
not
writer,
interested.
the author, the author
Right.
wrote that.
Or the editor put it in the notes. And
Yeah,
like,
like,
somebody
look here, Judge.
accidentally-
Okay, Judge. Look here. We were not interested. You can see here, plain as day.
He like he's like underlining a script in red, and he's like, make it hornier, and then he's like, oh god, these guys, they want me to write a dating sim. I can't do this.
And then in
Let me-
smaller parentheses it says, kick the can too? Question
No.
marks?
No, I'm good.
Please don't put more kick the can in. Please, I'll write as many horny scenes as you want. No more kick
Shit.
the can.
I already have a fucking title for this episode.
There's like a
No,
little
so-
arrow on the script, and it's like, hey, have we talked about the chicken sandwiches lately?
Can I give you like also these are 3 sentences in a row too, and this is but I was not interested in it, meaning seeing their underwear. Next sentence is parenthetical, not interested, 3 question marks. And then I pretended not to be interested. Which is just like, okay, you just contradicted yourself like twice there. So at
Please
any
free
rate,
me from this video game.
yeah, so now basically he's checking out Yu's underwear and his sister's. So he shakes them and he's like, where's Takeshi? And she's like, I think he went to the merry-go-round. She's like, Mayo's body is so warm. And he's just like, yeah, alright. So he goes to the merry-go-round.
Yeah, and then there's, it made me think about in Kids Route where they're like, oh yeah, you showed me some wrestling moves, which shows that there's really only one true ship in this game, and it's you and Mayo.
Is there... Oh, that's right. You're right. So, yes.
And then Kid, yeah, I didn't even write this in my notes because it was so stupid. And then Kid walks in on Takeshi having that moment with Sora where she, duplicates herself. But of course he can't see any of that.
Right, and because he's, like, talking about, like, she wants to play tag, and he's just yelling, like, hey, there's no way I can catch you, right? No matter how hard I try. And Kid being Kid is like, oh, man, Takeshi must be cracking up down here, And it's like, okay, A, it's been 3 days. And B, like, asshole, there's a hologram character you just identified maybe 2 days ago. I don't know what timeline we're on in this final route or anything, but whatever.
And so Takeshi is talking to Sora and says the phrase clone law, and as he says clone law,
Clone
Kid's
law?
vision breaks down, and we exactly like that, and we switch back to Takeshi, and we switch to Takeshi at that exact moment. So I mean, we've jumped into Takeshi's body or we've jumped into his timeline. We don't know. It's happening all at the same time. And
Right.
it's that same scene where Sora talks to Takeshi about being omnipresent. We get to see the cubes again, our friends lying in a cube. We see them again, where she gives the whole thing about the higher dimensional space, opening the third eye. That whole thing happens the same way it happened before. And after Sora leaves, Takeshi walks out of the room and accidentally steps on Kid, who is lying on the ground, passed out.
Now, keep in mind, we need to start differentiating the kids now, too.
This is
Should we
Yeah,
call him
so this
Yeah,
is
we don't
interesting.
know.
Yeah.
Because he's young Kid again,
Young
right?
Kid.
Yeah.
So that would mean when we did the jump to Takeshi, we jumped into the same event happening in a different timeline. So both of those
Yeah.
timelines have the same event.
See, what's interesting to me too, and I didn't think about this till just now, before he encounters Takeshi, when Kid's going up to the merry-go-round the stairs, he has that vision of Takeshi and he's like translucent, and that's
Yeah.
right before he has this scene. So it's almost like, I guess if we're talking about crossing the timelines fourth dimensionally or something, old kid has somehow crossed through, is seeing this scene, collapses at Clone Law somehow, but then somehow young kid is now there in the other timeline too, passed out.
Yeah, so young kid also passed out, even though we haven't been playing as him.
Right.
He was also passed out there on the floor.
Mm-hmm.
So that could be a thing, like they're tied, whatever happens to one happens to the other in some instances.
But now we seem to be... Now we finally seem to be experiencing these things sequentially.
Right.
And so while whoever we are, like the player, is... Whoever we're controlling, the other one is like passed out or doing something else. Almost like it seems like the kid is like passing out and waking up, versus Takeshi, who appears to not be doing that. He's like he's doing his own thing when he's not being controlled.
Yeah, and
that's really what it feels like to me. It feels like we're some sort of third party that is controlling these people. And we're switching between Takeshi and Kid and other Kid. Or we're switching between Takeshi and Kid, but not other Kid, but he's doing something else too.
No, we're always switching, I think, between now at least. We're switching between Takeshi and older Kid. And maybe we always were, right?
Maybe.
Yeah, and so, but it's like we're some other controlling entity, it feels like. Like we're playing as
I see what you mean.
An entity that's separate from both of their consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't think it.
And I'm thinking back to the first instance where they did like the time switch, where Takeshi bumps into Kid, and we clearly see Kid, and now we're seeing that's the same event again in two different timelines.
Yeah, in the opening. So the opening is most certainly for the first time, and maybe not for the second time.
Well, keep in mind, and also like in the good Kid U ending. Kid's older because like we get it as a flashback, or it's a flash forward or whatever. But he looks far more like old Kid than he does young Kid.
Yeah,
but he's also grown, so it's like it's really ambiguous as to what he was when he was the original playthrough of the Kid timeline.
I remember him having like the blonde hair, and I didn't really think much of it.
I don't know.
I don't know why there's such a pregnant pause after that.
Gotta look at that picture again. I don't remember it off the top of my head.
Yeah, because he was taller. Because in the post whatever that good ending scene with you, he's taller than her.
Oh,
he's got blonde hair, and he looks like pretty significantly different.
Yeah, and I didn't really think
right.
much of it because I thought, well, it's times you change when you get older.
Years later, right?
Mm-hmm. And he's such a nerd, like he had to get better than that.
Right. But it's funny because like there's that face looking at him and Mayo swimming away. Let me take a look at that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Who's
we couldn't
that
figure
face?
out quite who it was.
Right. I'm just trying to look at it right now. Let's play here. That is not him. No, he looks like this jerk looks like a dark-haired person.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm sorry though. When they're swimming away, Kid is totally blonde. He's totally older Kid when they're swimming away.
Oh.
Oh boy.
Like you don't really notice it, but like here, I'll show you in the Discord.
Yeah, let's see the chat.
But for those of you listening at home, yeah, it's like it's small. You see him like swimming with Mayo.
Yeah.
But he's totally.
Yeah.
I did not notice that at all.
Oh my God! Yeah, there he is.
You'd have to really look, but yeah, it is blonde.
I knew that. In fact, I knew that was coming with Kid being like. I saw his reflection ahead, and I still missed that.
Well, if we're really gonna get into details, it looks like Sarah's hair in this is brown when it's been black the whole time. I don't know.
She looks like. Well, I don't know. Oh, there's another picture here where you can see them a little better, like because they swim up a little more from the dialogue box, but. I don't know. She looks younger than I would have expected her to. I mean, this is like a super far away shot of the two of them, but
Yeah. I don't know.
I don't know. I could go either way. Any rate, where were we?
So Takeshi has that scene with Sora. He steps on Kid, who's like, I don't feel good. Oh, also, my back hurts. And Takeshi's like, it's not because I stepped on you or anything. And Takeshi then wanders around looking for Coco after they have dinner and finds her in the Lemurian ruins. She appears to be throwing tiny glass beads into the water. These beads, when they hit the water, cause a water spray. I'm not sure if that's related to in Kid's Route when she appears and then disappears in a spray of water. Like, is that what she was doing? Was she throwing those things in the water? We learn they're candies later. Was she throwing those candies into the water?
Right.
And then they have the dialogue, like normal dialogue, where Takeshi feels guilty about what happened to Sugumi, and Coco's like, I also feel guilty. I should have died back there, but Sugumi saved me. And they both go to the infirmary and apologize to her, and Sugumi is like, no, it's not your fault, it's not anybody's fault. And she like specifically reassures Coco very sweetly that it's not her fault, and she's like, how far back do you want to go? If you want to assign blame to something, it's pointless to try to assign blame to like one moment as to why that happened, which is
like
interesting.
if we wanted to, we could just go back to the time everybody came here in the first place.
Yeah. And
that's
it's
good,
interesting.
like, character stuff. Like it felt, both those scenes felt really genuine.
Yeah, and the dialogue was like something that people would actually say to each other.
outside of throwing the glass tears.
Right, yeah. It's just the most obvious metaphor ever.
Yeah.
It could rain on the window pane, too.
Let me just take some of that fraternal ketchup off those mermaid tears.
Gross. So, I think they're interrupted. They're interrupted by Sora setting off the alarm by watering the flowers. She sets off the alarm by watering the flowers, but this time, Takeshi and Coco were in the infirmary, and because in Takeshi's timeline, he's there while she sets off the alarm, so he knows what's going on.
That's right.
And this time they're not present. They're not with Sora, so they run in and they're like, "Oh my God, what's wrong?" And it's like, "Oh no, it's Sora watering the flowers." And Sora's like, "Oh, I'm sorry. I just wanted to." Sora's kind of losing it, like she does in the Takeshi route. And then Kid is running around the statues with Pee-Pee, singing about rain for entirely too long.
This kid he's just warbling this really off-tune melody and this goes on for like a good 10 or so, 12 lines.
Too many lines. It should have been one line, and it was like a lot. Like
it was
5.
At this point that it kind of hit me. Holy shit! This is Kid. This is the Kid that we never knew.
Or he's breaking down, because at that point I was like, is he singing like I am the Rain King? What the hell is he doing?
Also, the kid had breakdowns in the past, like the time that he just flips out at Takeshi about sandwiches.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Like he might just be a bit unstable about stuff in general and having a little snap.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I think being imprisoned in that environment too, it's not super surprising and all that he might be. It's just
but is that the same? Is the kid that's running around singing these songs the same kid that's Sarah's brother that was in a facility?
Oh, yeah, I don't know. That's a good point.
Like, I feel like the kid in Kid's route, like, is the brother, and he's always been the brother. But the other kid, that he might not be Sarah's brother.
He might just be some dumb kid.
He might be the psychic boy that was in a room with Sugumi. That's what I think. And they're two different people. It seems like being controlled by the same entity.
Or it could be an empty husk of Kid who just is nothing, just the base element of an automaton. It's barely functioning. That's why everyone thinks he's so stupid most of the time.
He's a real shitty RSD.
Yeah, he's just a soulless beast, just kind of wandering around being like, "Oh, Rain King, I know, Count a potato, give me a horse on a macaroni." And everyone's just like, Jesus, fuck, I can't deal with this kid. Like, Jesus
Watches
Christ.
too much Invader Zim.
Yeah, and then he just comes back and he's like, "Oh, hey, how's it going, everybody? Yeah, no, I know what that is." And everybody's just like, what is wrong with this kid? Jesus fuck.
Like in a cartoon when somebody gets hit really hard or something and loses their higher level of consciousness, and they're just like, blah, 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 blah. It's like that. He's like that the rest of the time.
Yeah, I got hit in the head, turned into a baby.
Right.
So, at that moment, we switch back to Kid 2, the brother kid, older kid. And he's in the Cosmic Whale Room with Sarah, thinking to himself, oh, it's raining, because they're in the Cosmic Whale Room, and the whale is periodically spraying water into the air, because it's been turned on. And, it's breathing and everything. Cosmic Whale Room. And, Sarah shows him the pendant again and gets him to... It tries to, again, get him to recall that they're related. I don't think that much happens, though, before we switch back to Takeshi. She's like, this is my dad in this pendant. And then we switch to Takeshi talking to Coco.
Oh, boy. Oh,
and Coco is calling Takeshi Dad, and she says, oh, Takeshi, why? And he's like, don't call me Dad. And she's like, you seem like the daddy type to me. Ever 17, please.
Yep.
So many years before that was a joke. We've just hit just the right moment in our lives where
the
this
perfect
is a
time
joke.
in history where because it's like not even like a little bit like, oh, haha, no, she's just like, let me call you daddy, and he's just like, no, do not call me daddy.
Over and over.
She's like, come on, I'll call you daddy, let me call you daddy, and he's just like, no, stop it, it's weird. And
And you know,
Takeshi
weirdly,
was right.
It's very close to being 2017, the year where this game takes place, so I think we can apply all of our jokes to that time period.
That's fair. Now, one thing, though, I will say, though, is that at one point he goes... She does kind of backpedal, because he's like, you thought I was something like your dad? Or you trying to say, like, me and your dad are alike? And then Coco's like, no, my dad's a lot better looking than you, and smarter. You know, so which is kind of funny.
Did we skip over the part though where when he flashes back to what happened 30 minutes earlier, and she woke him up by prying open his eyelids, pouring salt water into his eyes, and even shoving hydrogen peroxide up his nose?
What the fuck?
Like,
oh yeah,
crazy.
That's right. It's kind of amazing that, like, the salt water didn't quite do it. Like, and then it's like, no, let's try. Yes.
So Coco is like, she's like talking about her dad, and is like, yeah, he's at a research lab under the ocean. She tells Takeshi he's in IBF under Lemieux, but it's a secret, which shows that Coco knew about it the whole time, but she's too Coco to tell anyone.
Oh.
Just to
and
Coco.
Coco's like, no. And then, really interestingly, Coco says that she knows that her dad already escaped, and that because she is psychic, and she just knows. She says she has psychic powers because she's a Solarian, a person from the sun. And at this point,
yeah, at this
Coco
point
has
in the
been
game,
making up a lot of stuff, but
yeah, she's just kind of throwing shit out there. So we really
but
can't
also,
trust any of this.
I mean, she could just be like, this could just be her lying because she's Coco and she just says shit all the time, or it could be related to how Mayo says that her dad is from the sun.
Yeah,
and that the lettuce tastes like it.
Yeah.
No,
that's right. Jesus Christ.
It all comes back. One thing I want to say too, by the way, is that it's funny that when she mentions like IVF or whatever, Takeshi's like, he says something like, I wasn't surprised by this, like it felt perfectly logical to me, like almost as if I'd already known about it. And it was just like a feeling. So it's kind of like Takeshi and Kid, I feel like, are both sort of getting these little hints that maybe they've either done this before or they just have some other insight to the other timeline or whatever, if these are timelines.
They're just walking around like, I've kissed all these girls. What? What?
It's anime romance quantum leap.
Oh no. God, somebody else talk about chicks. I'm not talking about it. Somebody describe chicks.
Alright, so how does this go?
Pantomimes for assholes.
Yeah.
Playing chicks is an elegant, aristocratic game developed in 1648 by Louis XIV of France. The rules are simple. All you have to do is imitate a chick and walk around. The winner is the one that can mimic a chick or becomes most like a chick. The person who acts most like a chick wins. Is according to Coco. And basically what happens is we get some back and forth dialogue, P-O-P-O-P-O-P-O-P-O, of both characters, over and over again.
And over and over and over again.
And it just keeps going.
It's like, it's somehow like, you thought kick the can was bad, we can raise the stakes on that. This is gonna be a lot worse. And it's just seriously like, repeated dialogue.
Wait, did we mention the dump in the middle of the floor part? Yeah.
The what?
I feel like the person, like somebody else on the team, read the kick the can section and was mad about how much time that got, and decided to just make his section like to make fun of the other one.
And there's just like, I don't understand some of the dialogue here.
It's inane, pointless, doesn't really get any it's the worst.
Takeshi like dissociates and has a fictional conversation with his parents.
That
where
was
he's
the
like,
best part.
This is where your son is now.
It's like the jokes I always make where I'm just like, oh, I'm playing a putt-putt game for the entertainment of people and I'm making jokes about pornography over a game about a car. Sorry, Mom.
It's exactly that, yeah.
And it's like, it is actually, this one part now that I'm reading it in the Let's Play, just like, it must be very hard for you two, meaning his parents, to imagine your own son playing chicks 102 feet under the ocean. Or maybe you don't believe him doing it. I can't blame you. I'd never dreamed I'd be in this situation 3 days ago. How interesting life is. How sad we are. Or there I go crying again. I'll put down the pen. Dear mother.
Okay, he's crying while he's playing this game.
So, I guess, for whatever reason, pretending to be a chick opened up these feelings of him, and I don't know. Whatever.
It was a moment. Takeshi pretended to be a chick and had like a weird emotional moment.
Yep. And then Takeshi's like, alright, now we're going to sleep. She's like, okay. And then he kind of has mixed feelings about her calling him daddy. But then they run into you, and she's like, I saw you guys playing chicks, and then Takeshi's embarrassed, but of course Coco isn't, and she's like, you should have played with us, and she's like, I don't think so. And she's like, Coco's like, we can play it right now.
Takeshi's like, yeah, you really wants to play with you, Coco.
Yeah, it's kind of funny in that sense, you know. And anyway, so Takeshi's embarrassed by chicks, so the game, and so he asks you to forget she ever saw it, and blah.
She basically threatens to blackmail him with it.
Yeah, she's like, I'll remember this in case I need a favor later, type of thing. So,
Coco then goes to sleep and talks in her sleep, and Takeshi like goes and tucks her in, and a reminder that she's supposed to be 15. I don't know. So Takeshi hears her dreaming, asking her father and brother to help her get out of somewhere. So it's interesting because we've had Coco also refer to Kid as her brother during these like mixed reality merging situations, and now she's talking about Takeshi as her father. So it's interesting. It's almost, it makes me think about that image that we saw when you guys looked at the manual for this game, like that one weird image that was like some unknown person who was like weirdly proportioned standing over Sugumi and Coco. Mm-hmm. And that kind of thing has made me think, like, is there, that's what's made me been like, are there these people being controlled by other entities? And could whatever entity Coco is, or this entity controlling Coco and Mayo, be the entity that is asking for help from a father and brother entity that are controlling Takeshi and Kid in some capacity, but
right.
Are these like those actual people in their bodies? Are they like separately being controlled in their bodies? Especially because Kid is always talking about how he feels dissociated and like the person inside me was turning in his sleep and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then after that we switch back to Kid, who is listening to Sarah talk about her brother, Kid knows he's her brother, but he feels like he feels like a different him was the one who was interested in hiding it. So, and I don't remember the exact dialogue there, but he's like thinking to himself, like, why didn't I? Of course I am. Like, why didn't I say this sooner? Which speaks to this like weird split that is happening in Kid, where like the other person who's controlling him didn't want him to say it. Which, like, what does that mean?
Yeah, he kind of has this moment
care.
where it's like, well, you know, why didn't I just come to this realization? It doesn't make any sense for me not to.
But then he sings her favorite lullaby, which is just in this game way too much.
God, please.
Which we're thankfully spared the voice track for that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And we switch again. We switch back, and Coco is singing the lullaby. Coco says that her mom used to sing it to her, but also that she just learned it. Cool, Coco.
Cool. Whatever.
They're in the souvenir shop. I think it's Takeshi and Yu and Coco. And Coco did in fact make Yu play chicks off camera.
Mm-hmm.
And she apparently enjoyed it.
Yeah, she's really good at it, apparently.
She's the
So
best.
the tears that Coco was throwing into the water are a candy sold at the souvenir shop.
Mm-hmm.
So they are not glass. They are some kind of candy. And Coco tells the story of the 800-year-old nun about a girl who drinks mermaid tears and stops aging at 17 years old.
That's right. And
Who wants to take away this wonderful story with so much emotional depth and drama?
let's see here. I admit I was like getting near the end of
Well, I remember most of it.
Alright, go for it.
So it was this old man that got invited to this other guy's house, like a party under the ocean, and when
An ocean party.
Yeah, an ocean party with ocean beer that, you know, you can drink no matter how old you are.
Magic ocean beer.
Yeah. And he gives him a gift. The guy in the underwater castle says, "Here, take this," and he brings it home with him. And his daughter, there's an incident. She gets into it and drinks all of it. They were bottled mermaid tears, and from that point on, she doesn't stop aging. It's like a eternal
She
youth kind of
stops
thing.
aging.
Yeah, she stops aging, and she had this boyfriend, and she doesn't stop aging. I keep getting that reversed. She stops aging. He doesn't. And he says
He
to her,
dies.
he dies.
At
And he says
34.
to her, at 34. And says to her, wait, I think it was 700 years, and I'll be reborn and come back to you. And she says, okay. So,
Sure.
Okay. Which
I got nothing better to do.
That is history's
Well,
most
I mean,
selfish move. Jesus Christ.
think about it. You've already, had the magic anti-aging potion. If somebody said, yeah, I'll come back in 800 years, what's 800 years, right?
I'd be like, well, then I'm gonna go party for 799. I'll see you then.
Yeah, see you later. So, she decides to live life as this traveling nun, planting flowers, healing sick people, taking care of kids, really just partying down now that she's not attached anymore. And, she plants these special flowers wherever she goes as kind of like a way to tell him where she has been and how to find her. And she ends up in this cave outside of this village, and she says to the villagers, I'm just going to be up here in this cave. I'm going to ring the bell once at dawn every day, and if you don't hear the bell, then just assume that I'm dead. So she waits the 700 years, waits like 20 or something years after that, and the guy never shows up. So I forget what exactly the ending was, but she stopped ringing
That's
the
it.
bell.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the ending.
She disappeared.
He never came. She disappeared. The bell stopped
And
ringing.
she tries to play it off as like the end ? And it's
Question
like, what?
mark?
They never found her body, so who knows, man? It's like, oh, shut up! Oh my god.
So is the purpose of this story? I think
The purpose
we
of
have
it
a character.
the purpose of it seems to be just like a backdrop for Takeshi and you to get into a really petty argument about like,
Yeah, right?
semantics. Of, like, well, no, mermaids' tears don't actually exist. Well,
God, it's the
who
worst.
knows? Anti-aging potions might actually exist, but they wouldn't be mermaid tears. They'd be like science tears.
Well, there's a thing where like he says something like, "You don't believe in eternal youth, do you?" And she's like, "I do." He's like, "All right, we'll prove it." She goes, "Okay, I will." And she starts talking about Rip Van Winkle. Excuse me. And so what's, and I don't know. Well, maybe I'll get into that afterwards. I don't know if this was supposed to be the story of Urashima Taro or Rip Van Winkle or what. But she tells the story of Rip Van Winkle, but I think she uses like dwarven spirits, which I've never heard in the story of Rip.
Yeah, apparently Rip Van Winkle drank liquor, like dwarven liquor, and then fell asleep for I don't know how many years.
Yeah, and then he like woke up very old.
Woke up very old.
So we ran into, not to play whatever, we ran into this into Police Knots, where when you talk about people who go through time and don't age, like if they're cryogenically frozen or something like that, there's a Japanese folklore called the myth of Urashima Taro.
Oh, that's the boy who goes underwater, right?
Exactly. Yeah, that's
Gets
exactly
the
it.
box and all that. Yeah.
Yeah, he sees some kids being mean to a turtle. He saves the turtle. The turtle like brings him down to the kingdom of the sea, and basically they give him this bag. And when he gets up, nobody told him this, but when you're underwater with the Sea Kingdom, time goes super fast, even though you're not aging. So his family's dead. His parent, like the village, has moved on and everything. So he, like, time has kind of gone on without him for years.
Yeah, like he just thought he was partying and hanging out for like a week or two. And it turns out, nope, it's been 75 years or something like that, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So my understanding...
Yeah.
My understand... Yeah.
The ocean has no laws. We've been over this. It's cruel and unfeeling.
What I've come to understand, I don't know a lot about translation, is the closest cognate you have to the myth of Urashima Taro is Rip Van Winkle. The problem with the Rip Van Winkle story is Rip Van Winkle does age. Like, he lives 700 years, but he's a super old man, whereas Urashima Taro stays the same age the whole time.
Yeah, and this is just they give him a box, and they're like, yeah, just don't open this, okay? And then he's like,
yeah,
all right. And then he opens it later, and he's like, oh shit, now I'm dead.
Yeah, that's the shitty part about Urashima Taro, because he was super nice to this turtle, and all this shit happened, and they give him this box, and they're like, whatever you do, don't open this box. And he gets back, and everybody's aged beyond him. Then he opens the box, and it's like, oh, all the years that you missed out on, they're all here in this box, so he ages super quickly and dies of old age right there.
Yeah. Well, that's like pretty
totally
common in a lot of Japanese folklore, is just like the spirits are cruel and fickle and just like to fuck with people. Like, there's this one myth about a tanuki and his balls.
Yeah, the tanuki, which is just...
Get out. Good night, everyone.
It lives to fuck with people. That's all it does.
Oh my god. So, to get back to the purpose of the 800-year-old nun story, I feel like there's probably a story reason why Koko is telling this story about this woman who's frozen at 17, because we have a character who is that exactly, who is Sugumi. Also, we have the character of Sugumi who, her boyfriend Takeshi dies, and so I think that's really interesting that it could be that that perhaps it could be metaphorically talking about Takeshi being reborn in the second timeline.
Yeah, because he specifically says that too. I'm not really dying.
Yeah.
You don't have to worry. I wouldn't do this if I was really dying.
And that's the thing.
So
Takeshi is the only one that's not accounted for between playthroughs. So we've got Kid, which is two different kids. We've got You, which is two different Yus. Sarah,
Sugumi knows she's the same Sugumi.
Yeah, Sugumi knows that she's the same.
Yeah.
Sarah
and Koko
is in one playthrough and not in the other. And the same thing with Koko. So then Takeshi is the only... Yeah, and then Sora is a robot. She's always there. So Takeshi's the only one that's not accounted for.
That's true.
So it was interesting. Yeah, the Rip Van Winkle story does not work. I wish they had just put the Japanese legend in there and just described it better.
Yeah.
It's one of those weird times where that's like really common. Yeah, I don't know why. Because they feel the need to put things like sensei and, it's like, hey, you can just say teacher.
What are you eat? Are you eating a chicken sandwich while we're recording this podcast?
No, I wasn't pulling a vape rig out of my mouth. Yeah, yes, I was eating 2 chicken sandwiches. No, yeah. No chicken sandwiches yet. No double downs.
Just a little bit
Not
of
in this
ketchup
recording.
lettuce.
At any rate, by the way, just so you know, we get the switch back to Takeshi, or I'm sorry, Kid, who insists Rip Van Winkle did exist, which is what we were supposed to do.
Which is the tagline
wait,
for the end of this.
Because the whole thing is that you and Takeshi are arguing, and then suddenly Yu's face goes pale, and she clutches her heart, and Takeshi grabs her and runs to the infirmary, and then she's about to say something, and then she says Rip Van Winkle did exist, and Kid says Rip Van Winkle did exist.
Right.
And that's the end. So
Sorry.
didn't die in any of the other timelines. So what's going on with you? We don't know because we're Kid now.
That's not true. She did die in the bad
In the bad ending,
Yeah, I think Segumi.
when everyone
bad ending.
dies.
Yeah,
Yeah,
everyone gets
teeth
the
blew.
teeth blow.
Yeah.
So is that how it goes in the bad ending? Like with you clutching her heart, or people like dying like that?
No, actually, now that you mention it, no.
Yeah, they just go to sleep.
They exsanguate, and then they like kind of
Exsanguate?
God.
exsanguate.
That's a $5 term for puking blood if I ever heard one, boy.
That's what it is, fucker.
I know.
Use that one.
Sorry, it just
Well, you
caught
don't
me
just-
off guard hearing exsanguate out of nowhere. I like it. No,
I'm
Exsanguate
sorry.
all
I'm
your
sorry. I
fraternal
acted
friends.
like a surgeon by using a
I'm not
fucking
roasting
4-syllable
you.
word.
I'm just saying it was
Exsanguate.
good. And I'm
Just take a compliment. That was a good word to use.
Yeah, geez, it's like a
Thank
word
you.
I would use, and I'm great. Fucker.
Oh my god. It's now we're on a cliffhanger. Good job.
Yes.
We
and
did
we're
it.
I'm gonna tell you something. We're gonna end on another cliffhanger
Oh my
because
god.
I have the next thing set.
The line is Bugs Bunny does exist.
Oh no. This
Fuck
this
is
has
with you
been
and
Space
Looney
Jam
Tunes,
2 the
by
whole
the way?
time.
Did we have anything else we wanted to discuss before we wrap up, like theory crafting wise or anything wise?
I have no idea what's going on right now. I mean, we've kind of established the different timelines, but it's really tough to understand where this is going.
If
Yeah,
there
no,
are
I agree
aliens
with
in
you.
any way, shape, or form, I'm gonna go outside and I'm just gonna spike a football into the ground.
They're
in
called
anger.
Solarians.
Yeah, if there's aliens, I'm just gonna go spike a football as hard as I can. Yeah.
I don't. I mean, I've read ahead. I don't know this. My bet is not aliens. My bet is there's going to be some reference to the Lemurians.
Yeah.
Or it's going to be actual Solarians. They're going to take off to go back home. And the ending credits rolls over Smash Mouth walking on the sun.
For the record, they kept saying people of the sun, and they're like, yeah, there's no people of the sun, and I was just like, oh, don't get that Rage Against the Machine song stuck in your head all day, and then immediately I was just thinking about Tom Morello rubbing a wrench up and down the E string of his guitar, and I'm like, well, it's too late now.
See what you did? It's coming back around again. Good night, everybody. Okay, so
That's how the podcast should end, just on that note.
no,
On that
because I
line.
have to tell everybody at home what to read up to.
That's true.
Yeah, what's the line?
And also us.
Takeshi says this. I'll set the scene, but I cannot show. What? Hold on.
I'm sorry. You killed me. I'm dead.
All right, I'm gonna set the scene for you. Okay, I cannot show you a picture of this. All right,
Okay.
it's 5:59 p.m. You're in IBF, with the place with the 3 pods, the 3 cylinders. You've seen that scene before. Takeshi says, "It's time for desperate measures."
Oh no.
And then he puts on the sunglasses.
And he gets in the submarine. More fun with submarines.
Alrighty, well, thanks for listening, everybody, and later.
Later.
Yep.